This is Green Mountain Mornings. You are listening on 100.3 FM, AM 1490. I am your host, Olga Peters, and my guest this hour is Melanie Winters from the Reformer. Hey, Melanie.
Hello.
Just want everyone to know we also have two sponsors in this hour of Green Mountain Mornings. The first is our news update sponsor, that is Brattleboro Subaru, where their customer is their number one priority. They have a knowledgeable sales staff, a vast selection, and lowest prices available. You can visit them online at brattleborosubaru.com or stop in and see them at 1234 Putney Road in Brattleboro. Our second sponsor is Brattleboro Savings and Loan, and they are sponsoring the broadcast of Green Mountain Mornings tonight because we have Nolan from BCTV in the studio today filming this segment of Green Mountain Mornings. So thank you to our sponsors, thank you to my guests, and thanks, Nolan, for being here. Melanie, I have to say, when the news broke of the incident at the pharmacy, the Brattleboro pharmacy, or sorry, wrong pharmacy, it was the hotel pharmacy.
Hotel pharmacy, yes.
I apologize for that. About a potential bomb threat and someone wanting drugs. I mean, what?
Yeah. It was quite the drama.
Yeah.
It was quite the drama. Yeah, he, I guess, was looking for oxycodone and other drugs and said he had a bomb, some kind of pipe bomb, and, passed a note to one of the employees and demanded drugs and so forth. And they kept their heads. I don't know how, but they kept their heads and they stalled and said they were gathering things up for him or whatever. In the meantime, other people in the building were calling police and keeping police apprised as police were on their way, and everybody handled themselves quite well, and it actually had a good ending.
So of course, when incidents like this happen, the rumors start flying about what exactly was going on. So did this person actually have a pipe bomb and or other weapons on him?
No, nothing. It was just a threat just to get drugs, but he did not have any weapons or any bombs on him whatsoever.
And he's being held on bail right now, correct?
Yes. I think, there was a story in this morning's paper about that. I don't have the latest update with me, but he had a court appearance yesterday.
And were anybody hurt during this incident?
Nope. Everything. I mean, the Brattleboro police handled it well. The pharmacy people praised them. The police praised the pharmacy employees for being so calm and cool, and so it all worked out.
It's wonderful that people are kind of strengthening their emergency response systems, but it's also kind of painful that we have to do that more and more.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting. One of the interesting things in the story was one of the technicians, pharmacy technicians, Penny Abbott, was a bank employee for years and years, and I guess had undergone training for robberies and so forth at a bank. And all those years as a bank employee, she never got robbed. She said,
oh no!
Work at a pharmacy, and here's what happens. But that's kind of a sad statement about the addiction problem in this country and in Vermont in particular.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that update. Curious too, we have a couple other big news items around businesses in both Putney and Brattleboro. The first was in today's paper, is that Baskerville is closing its retail outlet in Putney.
Yes. It's actually it's kind of a sad surprise, but looking back, you can kind of see it was coming eventually. They've been scaling back on their Putney operation and their manufacturing here. I mean, they closed the factory a few years back, and it was just a limited retail operation, and so they're closing that down and just focusing on wholesale business.
Right, and they have other business partners in China that they work with, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Now, as I understand it, 5 people in the Baskerville store will lose their jobs. However, the winery that's there is going to remain in the building that's along Route 5 in Putney.
Yes, and we're told they have hopes of perhaps expanding, but there are, of course, there's red tape and regulations and approvals and permits that they need. So, they got to make sure all their ducks are in a row. But there is hope that they could possibly expand on that space. I don't know if they'll take the whole space or what, but, we'll keep our eye on that.
Right, and one reason they have to go through all the approvals is that they sell alcohol. So
Yes,
there's other
yes.
other
There's
things.
federal approvals that they need for that, yes.
Right. Now, talk to me about Fibermark, because the Georgia-based parent company, I believe it's pronounced Nina, is going to close Fibermark, and that could be a potential for 100 jobs.
Yeah,
that
that's
are
definitely
lost.
a bigger blow to the area, and these are, these are our jobs ranging from entry level to engineering, administrative. So some of them are, skilled, good paying jobs that are going to be lost, and that's unfortunate. But it's they say it's kind of a part of doing business. I guess that they bought the Brattleboro facility from Fibermart in 2015, and they're just restructuring. That's what happens sometimes when one company buys another, a bigger company buys a smaller company, and after a couple years, they get a feel for how things are, and they restructure. And unfortunately, that's a consequence in this situation.
And I believe it's a spokesperson from Nina also mentioned in the article that came out recently in the Reformer were concerns over tariffs that are part of the whole Trump administration trade war.
Yeah,
That's happening right now.
That
concern
seems
there.
to be a underlying theme to a lot of things going on in the business world right now.
Yeah. And now, as I understand it, the Vermont Department of Labor has launched its program to support.
They always kick into high gear when there's a large layoff like this. 100 people for an area like this, that's a lot. Mm-hmm. So they're kicking into gear and trying to help out when they help people find new jobs and move on, hopefully in the same area.
Hopefully, yes.
Because we don't want to lose any more people.
No, no, we still want our workforce to stay strong. Now, just quickly, this was in today's paper as well. The Public Utilities Commission, I believe it's called, PUC, was considering whether or not it would rule on the sale of Vermont Yankee from Entergy to North Star by October 31st. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like the PUC has says, no, we're not going to rule by tomorrow.
Yeah, I guess they just don't want to feel rushed. They want to make their decision when they make their decision, regardless of what kind of timetable North Star or Entergy have. Okay, fine.
I mean, that's one thing that's so interesting about this process is you have so many different regulatory bodies weighing in on everything, and none of them have a fast process.
Right.
So
they all have their things that they're looking at, and for something like this, you need to have as many sets of eyes and as many ideas and as many devil's advocates, because this is a serious thing. This is nuclear waste.
Yeah.
It's a serious thing. So
yeah, and it's going to be there for a while as well.
Yes.
Thank you, Melanie. We are going to hand you on over to Natalie Knowles with her local news, and we shall return to talk about more things like Pink Heels and the Brattleboro Retreat and Sevka. So stay tuned. Welcome back to Green Mountain Mornings on 100.3 FM, AM 1490, 37 minutes past the top of the hour. I'm Olga Peters, your host, and my guest in this hour is Melanie Winters from the Reformer. Hello, Melanie.
Hello.
And, I'm sorry, Melanie Winters. I apologize for that. Tell us, Melanie, there was a dedication ceremony up at Sevka for a community solar community action facility designed to help low-income residents get a break on their electric bills. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay. Well, it was dedicated in memory of Harold Schmidt. He was a weatherization director for the Southern Vermont Community Action for like 25 years. Mm-hmm. He unfortunately passed away in April of liver cancer. But he left a legacy. He was remembered for his work with Sevka, and so they thought it was fitting to dedicate this in his honor. it's a 110 kilowatt solar facility. It's going to allow Sevka to give about 40 to 50 low-income residents in Windham and Windsor counties a break on their electric bill.
That's significant.
It says here an annual credit of about $400 a year toward their electric bills.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. And when did the facility, do you happen to know when it opened? Because while it was dedicated recently, it's been open a little bit longer than that.
Well, some of the project is finished, but some of it they're still working on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it says here about a third of the project. It's being built by Catamount Solar. It's already constructed and is mounted in a small area outside the Sevka offices. The balance of the project will be installed on the roof, but they have to see check structural integrity of the roof and so forth. So that might take a little bit more time and see how it goes from there. That's
what's so cool about net metering is it allows people who maybe can't install solar themselves. Mm-hmm. As individuals, or maybe they have a property that doesn't get good sun, it allows them to still participate in the program.
Right.
Without actually having the panels right at their own home.
Right.
And there is some kind of hip happening stuff at the retreat as well coming up. They have 2 contracts to consider.
Yes, they're going to be expanding. They're going to be renovating and adding some beds. They're hoping to add an acute care facility, which it's like a psychiatric intensive care unit, if you will. And they've gotten approved by the legislature. $4.5 million for renovations at the retreat, and the Agency of Human Services approved another $3.5 million increase. That's what's expected from Medicare reimbursement.
Okay.
And so they want to add some beds. They want to renovate some of the other rooms to kind of restructure. They're kind of moving units around.
Oh, interesting.
With the ultimate addition of, I think, 10 beds overall.
Okay.
Because some of their programs have been moved to the Winston Prouty campus.
Oh, right. Oh,
and
okay,
so that frees up some more space at the retreat for like the more acute intensive care units. And but they're also hoping to add some staff because, they're going to have this great new space. They have some nursing shortage problems.
They do.
Which actually is happening a lot in this area. I think the Brattleboro Reformer is also having some nursing shortage issues, as I heard.
The Reformer?
I mean, the Brattleboro Memorial Hospital.
You wish you had more reporters on staff. I totally get that.
I'm sorry. The Memorial Hospital, yes. So they're going to be putting some of the rate increase from the Medicaid towards salaries and contracting renegotiations. So they're hoping to add more staff and have some more long-term, contracts. Mm-hmm. Keep them going there. So we'll see how that turns out.
Yeah, this was interesting. I actually had Mike Fair from VT Digger on the show last week because he had the day before been not involved, but covering a meeting related to these beds, not just focused on the retreat, but focused on Vermont's mental health system in general. And it was a 6-hour meeting. Just a little one.
Oh, yeah.
And he was talking about the shortage of mental health beds in the state as a whole, and how I think it's around 30 to 35 beds that the state needs. And so some of these beds will hopefully fill that hole. So we will have fewer community members who need mental health care going to, say, BMH and sitting in the emergency room for days.
Right, which is not equipped to handle those cases.
No.
And to please up the police department from having to sit and babysit when they're at BMH.
Right. Now, you mentioned that the retreat's having a staffing shortage, and this is certainly something I have heard from folks who work at the retreat, that they've been concerned about staffing levels. Now, the retreat is also considering the union's contract right now as well?
Yeah, I believe they're in contract negotiations. They're supposed to be holding a vote today, actually.
Okay.
And the union leaders are being kind of mum on what they're going to tell, what conversation they're having with their members and what they might be recommending and how they think the vote might go. They're going to wait until after the actual vote before they make some comments.
If we'll remember, this summer, the staff and union members held a number of informational pickets, raising their concerns about staffing levels specifically.
Yeah.
So I take it we will learn more about this in tomorrow's paper?
If
the vote's
check and see
happening
what
today?
Bob's working on.
Okay, so keep an eye out for Bob's byline. He's the one who's on this. And making sure we get all the information in a timely manner. So thank you, Bob. Now, going from the retreat to town committees, the Reformer recently did a nice piece on the town's ADA committee, which has been in operation since, I believe, the early to mid-90s, and is looking for volunteers at this moment.
Yes, this is actually kind of an interesting story because, these committees and the people, the boards, they don't get, they put so much time into it and they don't get a whole lot of recognition. Sometimes the select board or the school board, when they're in the hot seat.
Right. Everybody watches them.
But there are a lot of other lesser known committees and boards and commissions and so forth that really make our local government hum along and make sure that, people are all following by the same rules and regulations and so forth. And that's something that the ADA committee does. They make sure people, businesses, government buildings or whatever are all ADA compliant so that it improves access for people with mobility issues, people even who have sight issues, Braille and so forth. And yeah, they're always looking for more members. There's never seems to be enough people. I'm constantly getting press releases from towns about needing volunteers to fill committees and so forth. They are having outreach informational meeting. That's Tuesday, November 6th from 5 to 6 p.m. And it's going to be at the Brattleboro Senior Center.
That's perfect. You can go to the American Legion to vote and then walk right down the hill.
There you go.
Or bike or drive or whatever works for you. Right down the hill to Gibson Aiken for the meeting.
Yes, there you go.
Seems pretty good. Well, one of the things that caught my attention in that article was, and I'm sorry I don't remember who was quoted saying this, but she was raising her concerns about how there is, and it was near the end of the article, how there's no designated handicapped accessible parking on Main Street. And while someone can have a sticker, that blue placard that you can hang on your mirror, if they park on Main Street, they won't be charged for parking. The town's okay with that. For her, she says, yeah, but if you're a visitor and you don't know, or if you're trying to make an appointment, you may not have a space to park on Main Street.
Right. Do they? The question is, do they have space for a handicap designated spot? Do they require certain distances and so forth, access and?
That's a really good question because I think they do, and so where on Main Street would that go? Is the other issue.
Right.
And I found that discussion just in general really interesting and thought provoking for me.
Right.
My mom spends most of her time in a wheelchair, and so that is something when we're going to go out for the day, we quite often end up going to Keene simply because I'm like, okay, where is the easiest place for her to get in and out of the car and into a store or into a restaurant, and where isn't? And I'll admit, a lot of places in Brattleboro don't fit that bill.
I think it's Brattleboro itself is part of the issue because it's so. Keene is a little more spread out.
Yeah.
And Brattleboro is more compact, where you can't have parking right by every store like in Keene.
Well, exactly. Yeah, and you can't go to some place like one of my mom's favorite place to go is like Michael's and Target and Joe on Fabrics, and
Right.
there's plenty of parking, and it's all flat.
Right,
And yeah,
right.
oh, totally.
But so that would be an interesting discussion, I guess, for Brattleboro to have. They start off with these challenges and these design issues, if you will, and space issues that are unique compared to like Keene.
Yeah. The other thing about this piece, and you mentioned it too, about how often you get requests from towns for volunteers.
Yes.
I find it fascinating, and maybe this is just a change we're going through as a community. But so many of these towns, especially the smaller ones, Brattleboro's pretty professionalized as a town administration goes.
Yes.
But a lot of these smaller towns still rely almost completely on volunteers.
Yes.
And I wonder if we have a society that can still support that type of infrastructure, that volunteer-based infrastructure.
Well, I think in small towns it can, but you are going to have the same core group of people doing everything.
Good point. The same people keep showing up, and yes, they probably are retired because they're the ones who have the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Interesting. Just before I let you go, Melanie, tell me a little bit about Pink Heels.
Heels.
That was
This
seems
was
like
a sweet story.
Sweet story.
Sweet story. It's about a little 4-year-old Brattleboro resident. He's fighting brain cancer. It's very sad. But, what's every little boy's love? Fire trucks, right?
They are beautiful,
They love
bright
fire
red,
trucks.
shiny
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So what is it called? The Pink Fire Truck in Vermont. It's kind of an organization that reaches out to community members and people that are, struggling or in need or what have you. And they got together and created kind of a special day for Michael Voss. That's the little 4-year-old. And they all came in their uniforms and so forth, and the fire truck, and they gave him a special toy fire truck and all that. So it was really kind of a heartwarming kind of story. Kind of like a Make-A-Wish kind of situation, but not, different organization, but the same intent.
Now, is it just one specific fire truck that went out, or did multiple organizations turn out for this event?
There were firefighters from Bellows Falls, Brattleboro, East Dover, Guilford, Hinsdale, Newbrook, North Walpole, Putney, Vernon, and the Brattleboro Fire Department, Police Department, and Vermont State Police. They went to visit him at his home in Brattleboro. They all said it was very emotional. He smiles all around, and adorable picture of this little 4-year-old with such joy in his face with just the toy fire truck. The simple things that make life, wonderful.
Yes.
So it was cute.
And on that note, Melanie Winters, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you.